If you understand that shame is a survival system and not a moral issue, you get into a view of the world that sounds like you're a badass behavior profiler. The mechanism that people use to conceal shame is the most revealing thing you can ever see. Shame is not an injury. It's a feature of human beings. Since we evolved in these little tribes back in the day, everybody watched everybody all the time. Your value was immediate. Did you pull your weight? Did you belong? Did you threaten the group? Did you embarrass the group in front of another tribe? You get that wrong, you were out. And out doesn't mean lonely back then. It just means dead. So our collective species nervous system learned something very early. Being excluded is worse than being uncomfortable. Being rejected is worse than being completely tired and exhausted. Being exposed is worse than being unhappy. Public speaking is the number one fear of human beings. It's never public speaking. If this is seen, I am at risk. So that's when the split happens. There's a part of you that feels, and there's a part of you that manages how that feeling is perceived. If you don't feel shame, if nothing in you flinches at judgment or exposure or rejection at all, then one of three things is probably true. You're deeply dissociated, you're lying to yourself, or you're a sociopath. The tragedy here is that a lot of people don't even remember what they're hiding from. They just know the rule of, I can't let that happen again. So they become careful or impressive or charming or untouchable or funny or righteous. And everybody applauds the result, and we never see the cost. The nervous system does not give about authenticity. It cares about survival. From that point forward, everybody is answering the one question over and over in every room, every relationship, every decision. This, what about me should never see the light of day? It's first and foremost about concealment. It's the most efficient configuration that your system found to avoid judgment. That's basically what personality is. Most people don't remember the thing that happened to create the initial shame at all. They just remember the rule. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be seen wanting. Don't ask anybody for anything. You're going to see you as needy. This is why criticism feels existential. Basic ass feedback can feel like a real attack. It's not, I want to be successful. It's, I cannot afford to be a failure. When you look at someone, you're not seeing who they are. What you're seeing is basically the answer to a question they've been responding to their whole life. What would destroy me socially if it was true? Once you see the question that people are answering, you start seeing the same pattern everywhere. Who can't be wrong? Who needs to be liked? Who needs to dominate the space? Who stays just far enough away from everybody so they don't get evaluated? We inherit them from these moments where something went wrong, and the nervous system, your mind, quietly says, never again. What's being protected? And that's what I want you to be able to see. The first mechanism is the controller. And this is the person who needs structure, certainty, plans, really clear rules. They're decisive, they're prepared. If nothing moves without me, nothing is going to surprise me. That's what's going on there. And peace to them, the experience of peace will always, forever, even in their relationship, it's going to feel conditional. And then we have the performer. They're charming, they're quick, they're funny, they're engaging on Zoom meetings and stuff like that. They light up rooms when they go into rooms. This is where people think they're hiding how shallow they are. What we're seeing is a fear of being forgettable. So the cost for these people is they're rarely truly known by anybody, even their spouse. And what does silence feel like to these people? Exposure. And the next archetype is the achiever. These people are competent and driven and capable. They get shit done. Lots of experts are going to tell you this is ambition. So they produce, they earn, prove, they perform excellence because effort delays judgment. So eventually, the feeling of enough never arrives. Rest feels super duper risky, and their self-worth is always one mistake away from collapse for these people. Then we have the moralist, has very clear values, even if they're a total idiot. Very strong convictions. The right and wrong are so neatly and perfectly defined. They're almost allergic to nuance. So people think this is about deep concern maybe for other people. Seeing with one of the morality framing people is some unintegrated desire. Parts of themselves that used to feel unacceptable or dangerous or disqualifying or rejected. So virtue, even if it's fake, virtue just becomes armor that I can wear. If I am good, you can't reject me. And then there's the helper. They're always available, always supportive, giving to others. It kind of feels like generosity. It's the fear of being disposable that's happening there. If I matter to you, you won't leave me. And then there's the dominator. Their strong presence, they're commanding, intimidating. Amateurs will see this and see confidence, of course. But this is the totally real and present fear of being weak. And this is different than needs. This is being weak and then that being exposed to other people. So they posture and they control space. Fear creates distance and distance creates safety. And finally, we'll just go through one. And obviously this doesn't talk about every human being. I just want you to see the pattern. And this one will be the person that withdraws. So they're quiet, they're self-sustained, they're probably hard to read. And it's the belief that being seen leads to harm. So distance is protection. If I'm absent, then you cannot evaluate me. They have shitty relationships. Loneliness is just normalized. They're rarely seen by anybody, which is, I think, a bad thing. But once you see the strategy, you won't ever ask again to go back to the 4 lenses. You're never going to ask what's wrong with them. You start asking, what would have happened if they didn't become this? Eventually, pressure builds up in everybody. And when it does, shame doesn't come out as fear. It feels like fear. But how does shame come out of our mouth? Judgment. Nobody judges what they understand. We judge what we can't afford to be. I can never be that thing. So here's the shift that changes everything. The insults that people reach for is not them describing somebody else. An insult, everyone you'll ever hear, is a boundary marker. They mark the edge of identity. And once you see that, for the rest of your life, insults will sound terrified. Think about the words that people use when they're angry. Like the first ones: weak, lazy, fake, needy, cringe, stupid. Think about the last time you insulted something in another person that you were 100% immune to. Nobody screams weak unless weakness would destroy them if it was true. You don't obsess over fake, the word fake, unless you're terrified that there's nothing underneath a performance in some way. You're not going to get pissed off about the word needy unless needing at one point in your life cost you something that you couldn't survive losing. So when someone says weak, what they're really defending against is, if I stop pushing, I'm going to collapse or somebody's going to hurt me. Somebody says lazy, what they're protecting is, resting is going to expose me. Somebody says fake, it's, if I stop performing, they're all going to see through it. No one on earth insults at random. And every insult is a reflective pressure point. So here's the formula. Number 1, you capture the exact insult. Cringe, unhinged, loser, gay, whatever it is. The exact word matters. So what you're really hearing is their mind reaching for the shortest possible word to reinforce their own identity. The second is you identify the judgment category. There's only 4 categories of judgment and insults. It's attacks on capability, attacks on character, attacks on belonging, and attacks on control. And each one tells you what kind of judgment or social criticism that person is running from. Step 3 is you measure the emotional load. This is super critical. This is the most important piece. So an offhand insult kind of points to a little mild insecurity. A repeated insult points to a very reinforced defense system. Contempt points to core shame. Insults that people keep returning to, the one that shows up in every argument, every time they rant about something, every type of person they can't stand, that is identity level terror. So then here's the part that changes how you hear people. Structurally, this is the fourth step. You flip it. So let's take the word weak and you understand what that is. Weak is being seen as a pussy, being seen as unable to defend yourself, being marked as somebody others can dominate or ridicule or beat up. The sentence underneath is, if I'm seen as unable to protect myself, I lose status and safety and respect, and nobody is going to come to help. That one word tells you that they're guarding against humiliation and physical threats and social demotion and domination, maybe a loss of masculine standing. That's why weak produces rage instead of reflection. Let's do lazy. Think they're criticizing someone's motivation. And the sentence underneath is, if I'm not working hard enough, people will stop respecting me, stop liking me or inviting me places, and eventually stop keeping me around. That's about conditional belonging. What if you hear fake? What does that mean? It's being exposed as empty or undeserving of people's attention. It's getting revealed as somebody who fooled people and tricked them into liking them. The sentence underneath is, if people see through me, they'll realize I don't actually have substance, and whatever attention or status that I have is going to evaporate. This is about social fraud. The fear is not, I'm not real. The fear is, I got here by performance, and if that performance collapses, so do all of my connections or relationships. Let's just take needy, and you can invert all of these by yourself. I just want to give you one more. Needy is being seen as desperate, emotionally costly, somebody that everybody avoids because you require too much attention. But the sentence under there is, if I show need, people are going to feel burdened by me, and they're going to all distance themselves. So it's not necessarily abandonment. At one point, being needy led to a loss of leverage in their life. And you could do the same with the word stupid, probably by yourself right now, or the same with the word cringy, or the same with the word bitch, because you hear that a lot, especially people that are obsessed with using that as an insult and they think it's very powerful. Why do we think a certain word is powerful? What makes us think this is going to inflict a lot of pain? Because it hurt us. And we always think everyone's just like us. So when you hear insults, you're hearing what caused that person the highest degree of pain. Being seen as uncontrollable or too powerful, socially maybe, being a woman who doesn't self-regulate for other people's comfort. Internal sentences, if I'm not managing my tone, my needs, my boundaries, I'm going to get punished for being threatening or difficult. That's going on right there. What's another even harder hitting word? Let's go with slut. This is being seen as unsafe, being unworthy of somebody's respect, or maybe even deserving of harm. But mainly it's about losing all moral protection. If desire is visible, safety disappears forever. Safety goes away. It's about a loss of protection. It's not the behavior itself. So that insult reinforces a little rule. Visibility is costing me safety. Freedom costs belonging. And the grief underneath is, I had to give something up to stay safe, and she didn't. So what's the rule that starts emerging out of this? Insults describe what they cannot survive being seen as. And you're obviously not going to say this out loud to these people. You say it inside yourself, and something shifts because you're not reacting to content. You're hearing the protection. Every reversed sentence plugs directly into one of the shame and concealment strategies. And that's the architecture there. But What does this cost? I want to talk about what this costs long term. And we're going to go through a little worksheet here in a second. Performers are never really known by people. Controllers never rest. Achievers are never enough. Moralists are never at peace. Helpers are never chosen. Dominators are never safe. Withdrawers are never touched. No one would pay that price unless the alternative once felt worse. That's the big thing I want you to really get. Nobody on earth would pay that price unless the alternative was worse. And that's when sadness starts to land, because you realize that it wasn't just a bunch of vanity and ego. It's just survival. And I hope at this point, judgment collapses. Because there's one thing I say every time I talk about behavior profiling on stage and stuff: accuracy makes cruelty feel stupid. Unless you're a psychopath. Once you understand that insults are kind of those reverse sentences, we're hearing that super deep internal stuff that's going on. If you trace a judgment back far enough, you're not just going to find some insecurities there. You're going to find an entire way of how that person relates to reality. Here's how it works. If somebody fixates on capability judgments, weak, lazy, stupid, incompetent, that's capability, right? You're not looking at someone who values excellence. That's what I might think. Wow, they judge all these people, so they must value excellence, right? In their life, every day is some test that they can't fail. Every unknown is dangerous. They don't experience the world like we do. If they stop producing, the sentence that they fear gets closer and closer and closer. So they live inside of these metrics and comparisons and load of internal pressure. If somebody's fixating on the character judgments, what are character judgment? You're not looking at discernment because they know all of these little behavior tools. This is a person whose inner world has more police in it than the city of Chicago. There were parts of this person that were declared unacceptable early in their life. You're too wanting. You're too visible. You can't make your own decisions yet. You're too human. You're too much. So they kind of split. There's one that performs what's allowed. The other part stays buried in little tents. Am I good enough? Am I crossing the line? Am I allowed to want this? Desire is risk. So what do? They judge. And the judgment keeps that little internal police force in power. If you hear somebody fixating on the belonging side of this, you're a loser, you're cringe, you're pathetic, you're weird. You're looking at a person whose inner world is governed by what kind of anxiety? Exile. Their whole internal world is governed by exile anxiety. They learned that if you're early, you're outside the group. And being outside the group was worse than anything else. So they track all the norms. They read the room. Their whole inner operating system isn't a bunch of police. It's like a radar system. What is acceptable here? What's too much? What's going to get me pushed out of the room? So they admire the very people they are judging. And this is the case in all of them, actually. If you go deep and really, really, really peel back the onion. We admire the people we judge. Not the entire human being, but a part or something about them. What's the one we didn't cover? Control. If somebody is fixating on these control judgments, what are control judgments? Unhinged, crazy, dangerous, chaotic. You're looking at a person whose entire inner mind is organized around preventing collapse. Something happened early in life. Emotion, if I got emotional, that led to punishment. If I was expressive, there were some consequences. If I lost any control, that led to me getting messed up. People with alcoholic fathers, you'll hear most of the time with this little judgment about the world. They judge. Because labeling chaos, if I put a label on it, it's how we keep it away. I just need to label it. And that's where that judgment comes from. we always label things in others that we want to keep away from ourselves, or we want to pretend like we don't have. But what are we pushing away? If we go back to Carl Jung, we're pushing away our own shadow. And it's obviously, we've all got a shadow, obviously. So people are not acting from free will as much as they think they are. They're acting from all of these things. It's just basically what we're really acting from is restraint and concealment. It's about who never got to feel safe enough to stop defending themselves. There's an example that everybody's seen. Men who are viscerally hostile towards homosexuality. Just hostile. And it's the kind that shows up as disgust and contempt and mockery and all these slurs. And there's one word that shows up over and over and over, right? This was big when I was in second grade and third grade. And this one matters because this example teaches all of these rules so perfectly. The harsher the judgment, the more fragile the identity it's protecting. You don't have to excuse the behavior of this, but I do want you to see it accurately. What's the female version of this? The parallel example. Women maybe harshly judge each other for their own sexuality. Words like thirsty, desperate. They have nothing to do with sex. What are those words truly about? It's about permission. Somebody's reacting to a freedom that she never felt safe claiming, unless it's a pretend religious view, then it's just a need to remind themselves how deeply good of a person they are because it's so moral and religious. And then we go right back to the other judgment. It's reasserting a boundary. Every insult is reasserting a boundary. My definition of empathy, and you may disagree, but I want to give this to you, is accurate vision without contempt. For NCI. I can see accurately without any contempt. It's the ability for you to totally say, I can see everything that you're protecting. I know what sentence that you can't survive hearing, and I don't need to punish you for that. Because every other time that someone's discovered those things, they've been punished. This will hopefully ruin a bunch of lies that you tell yourself. I want you to notice which words come out fast. Which types of people irritate you instantly? What behaviors do you feel unforgivable? They're the places where your system is still protecting something, still avoiding some kind of judgment, still saying that right there, never ever that. And that's where all of this stops being academic. And it's just us asking, what am I still hiding? And what did it cost me to hide it this well? Because you've done a great job, all of you, all of us. We do great at hiding that. So that question, hopefully that follows you. If you see how universal it is, how much pain, deep pain is underneath how people sound, how much fear it takes for all these structures to stay intact, then you're not going to feel superior to anybody. I think you'll feel more careful with your words, with your judgment, and you'll be very careful with certainty, hopefully. And maybe for the first time, you'll stop needing to win every interaction because this is a moment that you get to a place where you understand what people are fighting for. You always thought it was something about dominance or control or status or I need to be right all the time. They're fighting for safety. It's always safety. If you truly see this, indifference becomes about impossible. And this obviously applies everywhere. And that fear is heavy. And you hear the sentence underneath everything. Please don't see me that way. Every judgment, please don't see me that way. And most of the people that you in your life have judged the hardest were never trying to hurt anybody. They were trying to not disappear, trying to not be humiliated again. They're trying to not be abandoned again, trying to not be small again. And of course, that doesn't excuse any harm or anything. It does something else, though. It makes hatred feel lazy. Because if you see that machinery, once you see the cost, you see the years and decades of tension holding somebody together. Contempt is just like really kicking a broken down door that you don't need to kick it anymore. And if you get really good at it, you're not going to see any of that anymore. You're going to start seeing you. You're going to start hearing the words that you used when you felt threatened, the judgment that came out the fastest. And you realize that not one of those things are an opinion. They're little smoke alarms. They're all the places where you still can't afford to be seen. It's always the never that, anything but that. We talk a lot about armor. We use that word a lot. But I want you to take this and start moving through the world and using it like you're carrying something heavy. That's empathy. And empathy is just accuracy without judgment, right? It's the ability to see pain without feeling an urge to punish it, because it's hardwired into our species. If you ever get to a place where you completely and fully stop trying to dominate conversations, you're going to start using your words like they're going to land on something fragile. If any of this made you feel a little bit emotional, that's great. I think it means you're still human, but it means that the system hasn't finished hardening you into a stone. That sadness isn't something that I want you to ever get rid of. So we talked about it as if we always think we need to get rid of it. I think it's evidence that you can still feel what a lot of people learned to shut down a long time ago. And if you can feel that, then I think you can be the kind of person who doesn't add more shame to the world. You're seeing what's really there. And I think obviously this is powerful. It comes with responsibility. But I think that's the real power. And once you feel that, here's the coolest thing about this that I think is the most beautiful thing about all of this training, is once you feel it at this level, if you can see the world, not just like I'm using a technique, but you can see the world at this level, you'll never need to be told how to treat people ever again. You'll automatically know.
Authorities are reporting a citywide manhunt underway.